Hello, followers of Christ. I hope you've had a wonderful day. It is very, very late here. I just got off work, but I wanted to give y'all a quick update and to go into a little bit about the book of Isaiah. I just started reading that book. I've only read the one chapter, and I'm already taking notes and finding things that um, God has revealed to me within that book. So before I go into Isaiah, I want to give y'all a quick update. So remember how in the last time I told y'all how God, when He fixes things, it's a permanent fix. And then I told y'all about the um, refinance situation falling through. Well, when God closes the door, He opens up another one. So the exact same amount that I would have gotten back had I went through the first initial door, I would have gotten back the same amount of money. However, through the first door, it would have required me to pay in. Well, I did pay in some money. I had to pay for some stuff. I had to increase some payments for about 6 to 7 months and then go through the whole process all over again. Like I said, it was a temporary fix. It wasn't nothing that was going to solve the issue because remember, the end goal is to try to get a vehicle. So, door number two, I'm getting the same amount of money. Don't have to pay anything. Didn't have to do anything. I am literally, I just went in, put in my request, and the funds are coming. Simple as that. There's no pay it back over time. There's no redo the application process. It all worked out exactly how God showed me it would work out. So I'm starting to see Him lay down the foundation of my steps by me taking into consideration and trusting Him with every every part of my life, not just one part of my life, like not just my finances, not just my health, not just, you know, my work life situation, but I gave Him full control over every part of my life. And lo and behold, the blessings are coming from every part of my life that I'm seeking God for on getting me a car. So it has been nothing but good news all week. Um, we've gotten from me down to my children to my friends. There's been promotions involved. There's been good health reports from doctors. There's been some funds increasing that we didn't know about. No, I'm not talking about the refund check. I don't get refund checks no more. Unfortunately, my kids are too old, and I'm beyond the what is it, low income threshold. So no, I'm not talking about a refund. I'm not talking about expected money. This was unexpected funding that God showed me where to go get it and how to get it in order for me to be able to take care of what He needs me to take care of. So you gotta really trust, even when things look bad. Cause like I said, when they came back to me and told me, unfortunately, after they done built me up, basically told me there was just a stamp of approval on everything. Like we were in literally the last hour, we just had to sign papers. Like we were there, and then all of a sudden the entire story changed. And so that's how I knew. And like I said, it didn't feel quite as smooth. And so I knew God was in the midst of it. I couldn't tell where, but when that happened, I knew for sure that that was not the route that we were supposed to take. I said, God is trying to show me I got to get out of this pattern of going through temporary fixes for things that require a permanent healing. And so He did. He blessed me with that. And so we are still moving forward. We're putting that up. Like I said, it's just so amazing how this funds that I ain't even know nothing about keep popping up in my mailbox, and it's all because of God. So enough about that. Um, but I really hope that blesses somebody to help them rebuild their faith. If you're in doubt, if you're going through something and you just got felt like you just been defeated or rejected. I hope me telling you or testifying to you what I'm going through my process of trying to, because like I said, my car went down in July, and I still don't have a car, but I'm just trusting God. I hope this is giving you the strength and just a reminder of how important it is, even when it looks like it's not gonna work out. Just still trust God. That particular situation may not have worked out, but that does not mean the plan is broken. It just means that God has a stronger, more foundational route for you to take so you don't stumble and it don't crumble under you when you're in the midst of it. So I am more than grateful because I didn't feel easy about it. I was like, okay, like I said, I'm trying to get out of making hasty decisions because I'm desperate or I'm in need of something, to the point that I'm making rash decisions, and I'm convincing myself and not really connecting with God, but convincing myself that, oh, this is a sign for God. We have to get out of that mindset of and really build our relationship with God to know that it is Him and He is doing the operating, and we have to use the wisdom that He's given us to be able to acknowledge and recognize Him in our life and in our steps. So, moving on to Isaiah. Let me tell you about this book now. Okay, so I didn't even get past the first verse when I saw the word vision. I immediately knew that was meaning someone. Um, it was more of a prophecy. This is before they started using the word prophecy in the Bible really deep, but they use vision all the time. Like, he has a vision. So it's saying that Isaiah had a vision from God. And in that vision, he goes and he is basically walking us through the vision. And so as I'm reading on, I get down to verse 6. And I immediately start thinking about it, reminded me of Jesus's crucifixion, because it's explaining like bruises and wounds that won't close. So I immediately started thinking about the piercing of the side. It said from head to toe. So I started thinking about the thorny crown and everything. And I was like, why is this sounding like this, almost like he's talking about Jesus? That's where I went. That's what my mind went when I was reading that verse. And then as I continue to read verses 11 through 13, it gave me the emotion of a meaningless offer. So we talk about this all the time about how church don't feel like church, and people are going to church just going to church and things like that. Well, these particular scriptures, 11 through 13, is to me, it's giving a description of how we ask God for forgiveness. And followers of Christ, this is really important, especially my new followers who are you are in a transitional phase. And like I told you, He is not worried about what you're doing. But don't let that, be mindful of the bottom half of that I'm always saying you. He's worried about your heart. You got to make sure that your heart is in place. So when I say He's not worried about what you're doing, that don't mean go out there and keep doing what you're doing because it's like, oh well, God know my heart. Your heart better be right. Like, you can't be out here sinning and going against God and thinking it's okay. Like, oh, He'll forgive me. That's not a pure heart. A pure heart meaning you have temptation, you're weak in being able to give in to the temptation. Like, you're not making intentional decisions to sin, or intentional decisions to give in to temptation. Like, it just it happens, but that wasn't your intent. That's a pure heart. That's you working on trying to be a better version of you. You feel remorse for the type of things that you're doing. And so 11:13 is talking about people who's out here ask for forgiveness with no intentions to change. And you don't want to fall into that rut. You don't want to fall into that category. You don't want to get into that practice. You don't want to have that habit of doing things and not really truly trying to change in the eyes of God. Like your goal is to please God. Your goal is to be able to be Christ-like. And we are born in sin, so it's hard to fight sin off sometimes. Like sometimes we just give in to things just because it's our flesh. But the are you giving into it because you're weak, or are you choosing to do it because you think that, oh, it's okay, God's gonna forgive me? Like, are you just really trying your hardest, and that's what's important. Like when I say, don't beat yourself up if you are going through things and you're not perfect. You're not, because he don't expect us to be perfect, but he does expect us to try. So you need to try. You need to, you acknowledge, when you acknowledge that you've sinned, your goal is to try to turn away from it and get God's strength to turn away from it, and to put something, a barrier, a block, or something in front of it, so you don't, if you do turn back, there's something there to intervene to force you back towards God. So, um 11 through 13, it remind me of that, us out here just doing whatever and not really trying to change. So we thinking, oh, every night when I go to sleep and ask God forgive me, I'm good, I can start over and show out again. That's not how it works. Um, and that's a good example of that in this first chapter. And I also noticed, because if you read on within those verses, it also brought to my attention attending church for social gathering. And so church is important. You have to have your village. I cannot stress that enough. It is important that you have a circle, a prayer circle around you, people you can fellowship with, people that can pray with you, because there's a power in them. Because the Bible says when two or more gather in my name. So it's important that you go to church and find those people that you can connect with, your church members that you can connect with, that can really help you grow your relationship with Christ, and you help them grow their relationship with Christ. But don't get, when you go there, I'm not saying don't speak to people, so leave me alone, I'm here to worship God. I'm saying that when you get to church, you need to make sure that at some point during the time you're there, you are focusing on connecting with God, worshiping, praising, truly, really building a connection, because that's where it's supposed to be the most powerful. It is full of people of faith. It is full of people of belief. It's full of people who are there with like minds, seeking God's presence, seeking the Holy Spirit, seeking a healing, seeking a blessing, seeking a breakthrough, seeking a message. Like, there are like-minded people in there. So that means your strength and your authority has made God that much more powerful. But if we go there to socialize only, where's the power? Where's the authority? How are we strengthening God to come in and fill us up and rejuvenate us if we forgot our purpose of being there? And that's what that kind of reminded me of a little bit. So just think about that the next time you go to church. Be real careful and be real mindful, and try not to get too into the social light. Like, don't go. I'm saying this from experience, you guys. Like, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm talking about experiences. This is things that brought up experiences that I've had. There was times where I went to church and I would come home and I would call my mama. Like, hey mama, is so proud that I done went to church. And she'd be like, well, what they preach about? And I couldn't even tell her what the preacher spoke about because I was socializing. And so that's when I had to check myself and be like, okay, you can't do this. Like, that's not why you going to church. You have got to do something better. And for me, what it took was I had to position myself in the church where I would not lose focus, because it was very easy for me to lose focus, because I see most of the people I don't get to see till Sunday. And so I be wanting to sit beside my peoples, my little village, and because I hadn't seen them, I'm kicking it up, and that's not okay because I'm losing what God has for me. I'm losing an opportunity for Him to connect with me. I'm losing an opportunity to ignite His power and give Him the floor and give Him the stage to perform. Like trust and believe what God can do and how He entertains is a lot more fulfilling and more amazing and a lot more interesting than what I'm over there talking about. But I've done it. And so that's why I say what I'm saying. Like, we got to be careful with the socializing in church because we're minimizing the power and authority, especially for the ones. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the people who are showing up and seeking the power and authority of God for healing. Do it for them. Usher the Holy Spirit in because you want them to heal. You want them to be blessed. You want them to come to God and have God to move them forward. If you can't do it for yourself, maybe that'll help you. Because I've done that before too, where instead of going for myself, I go for the people that are there that are really seeking God and needing God in that moment in time because I don't have no sense to know what I need Him for right now. So I become a vessel for those who are there. Um, Moving on to verses 17 through 19, I jotted down hopeful teaching, a moment of change. Okay, so in the scripture, he's going through the vision and it talks about the wrongdoings first, right? Like, oh, what we're doing, the giving the offerings that are in vain, and doing having a feast in the assemblies, which going to church in vain. But then he switches gears like a parent would that's teaching a child. I ain't gonna say discipline because a lot of times we scorn our children by conversation. Like we get on to them, but then we come back and we try to help them to understand why this is important, why you need to do this. And that's what 17 through 19 is. It's a reminder, like, all hope is not lost. Y'all out here sinning, and this is what the Bible says, it's not me. He said, y'all out here sinning, y'all out here doing evil, you're doing wrong, and you don't even know who I am no more. Like, my kids don't even recognize me, and I don't recognize them because they out here doing things they ain't supposed to be doing. They done turned their backs against me. But then he shifts, and he says, I will wash you clean. Let's come together. Let's resolve. And that's his way of saying it's not too late. So if you have been out here doing and not doing, it's not too late. You have time to go to God and be like, Lord, I've been messing up. I've been over here playing. I've been playing church. I've been playing praying. I need to get right. You right. You taught me better. You have given me the tools that I need in order to be a better Christian. And I just haven't been using them. So I'm going to refocus and reset. And that's that hope. God said it, it says, he will wash you clean from that. He will forgive you because now you're changing your heart. You're going back to the original origin of the foundation, which is your heart. And every time I think about that, the changing of the heart, I think about when a woman goes that thinks she's pregnant, when she goes to the doctor, the first thing they look for is the heartbeat. No heartbeat, as far as they're concerned, if there's no heartbeat, there's no life, there's no baby. And so that's how important heart is. Even in science, the heart is that important. So in your spiritual walk, in your spiritual transition, the heart is what matters. You have to change your heart. You have to be in a like-minded concept because that operates who you are physically. Your heart operates who you are emotionally, and so it makes sense that it will operate who you are spiritually as well. And so then it goes on down to verse 20. Now, just like a parent, we tell them what they did wrong. We tell them, look, there's a way to make it right, but then there's also that warning. And that's what verses 20 on down does for me. It warns me, like, if you don't change, this is what's going to happen. If you don't change, I'm gonna make a change for you. How many times, I've heard the saying, I don't think my mama's ever used it towards me, but she has, like, jokingly before, but she has used something very similar, because the last thing a parent wants to do is see their child go down the wrong path. And they would say, if it's the last thing I do, I'm gonna make sure you go to school. If it's the last thing I do, you gonna get out that bed. If it's the last thing I do, I brought you in this world, I take you out of this world. And a lot of times most people be like, oh gosh, that's violent. You're looking at it too closely. If my mama is feeling that way, for me, that meant that she is willing to sacrifice herself to give me better. If it's the last thing she does, is she's going to give me better. And she's going, and that, if with the love that I have for my mom, the last thing I would want to do is for her to have to go through any more pain to give me. She's already done so much for me. So to imagine her going through something else just to get me to do simple things in order, because she sees more than what I can see, because I was a child, I was naive. She understood what going to school meant. She understood what having a work ethic meant. She understood the importance of being respectful. So, um, in reading that chapter, those verses 20 on down, it reminded me of that moment where the parents, like, you know what? If hey, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. It's like God was telling us, look, y'all out here showing out, you don't want to get right, I'll take you out. I'm not gonna let you ruin all this creation that I've done because you don't want to change. And so I even put down, but it was from a loving place though. It wasn't him trying to have visions or even express his authority, because he constantly refers to us as his children. It is a loving point to where God is like, I will end your sin, because he don't want us to sin. I will rather end your life to end your point of sinning, where you sin no more, before I allow you to continue to sin and continue to hurt others or continue to destroy what has been built. And so I wrote down, I will commit sin before I allow you to sin again. And that's what I got from those scriptures. It was God saying, I will commit sin. And why I say commit sin, because he goes talking about taking your life. That's sin. We know thou shalt not kill. He put that in his commandments. That's sin. I would, those things. So the things that were taking place, God said, I will wipe you out. I will commit a sin before I allow you to sin again, because he wanted it to end that much. His love, the pain, the hurt, to see his children, his creation out here doing evil against each other, against him, against the world. It was just too much. And it was not necessary, because he has provided so much. He has given us so much. He has pulled us out of so many, terrible things. Pulled us out of our own way. He's pulled us out of, poverty. He's pulled us out of sickness. He's done so much for us, and he's shown us so many times, and forgiven us so many times, and blessed us so many times, to the point to where there's no need for us to be going backwards into these old habits when God has pulled us out so far. you know, a lot of times we get to the point of where we think that living right is hard. It's not easy. We do. I do. I get there every now and then. I make that same comment, like, Lord, it's easy, because it's so easy. Mindset wise, it's so easy to say I could just do this, but we know that's the wrong thing to do. So we say, no, we're going to go ahead and do right by God. And so in our minds, that's harder to do, because it alters our practice. That's the only reason why it's hard, is because we've been practicing doing something for so long. Now we got to change it up, and we got to change our mindset. But if we continue to practice, it'll become easy. And so I said all that to say this is when we think things are hard to do, we try to find every reason to go back to doing it the old way. I don't know how many times my kids will get in the habit of getting up on Saturdays, cleaning up the house, cleaning up their bedroom, having the whole rest of the day to say they get up in the morning, get it done, have the rest of the day to themselves. But then every now and then they'll just stop. They'll stop getting up in the morning. Then they'll stop cleaning up, and then those bad habits come back, and then I gotta reiterate, like, no, we're not doing this. And so, and they'll tell me, well, I do like getting up in the morning, but some mornings I just want to lay around. And it's like you can if your room is clean. You ain't got to get up. If your room is clean on Friday night before you go to bed, you ain't got to get up early on Saturday morning. But again, we get in those habits, and it's hard to break natural habits. And that's why you got to have the strength of God. And I know this is long, so I apologize for that, but it was a lot in this chapter. Um, and then there's this time that I felt like reading that chapter, the question of where did I go wrong came to mind too. Like there are times when my children are doing things and they're living their life, they're making their decisions, not just them, even with me. And we'll ask ourselves as parents and as a person who's striving for something, where did I go wrong? Like what did I do, or why they're making this decision? Like, did I show them this? Did I miss something? And I had to stop doing that. For one, I, of all people, know that my mama raised me a certain way, but that did not stop me from making my own decisions when I got out there in the world. It had nothing to do with her. At the time that I was doing what I was doing, I was not thinking about my mama, and I was not thinking about how I was raised. I was out here in the world, experiencing the world, and I made choices. And that's what it is. And so I've made a key note here to say, we really need not to assume that when people are out here doing things, I hear all the time how people will say, oh, well, that child wasn't raised right, or they wasn't taught how to do this and they wasn't taught how to do that. Now, in some cases, that may be true. They may not have been taught. Well, then teach them. Don't chastise them or their parents. But at the same time, don't always assume that they had not been taught. Some kids are just gonna go out here and do what they want to do just because they want to do it. I never could do it when I was at home, so I want to try it now. Or it's just something they want to experience. We don't know why people go through the experiences that they go through unless you have slept in that house and let all days and all nights and have stood by that child's side from day in and day out. You can't say what they have been taught or not been taught. And so we have to get out of the habit of assuming people haven't been raised right. Some things we just got to take accountability that we have made a decision and it was the wrong one. But during this chapter, I felt like that's what God was saying. It comes off harsh, but it's like He's like, I've showed them the ways, I've blessed them, I've done this. Like, where have I gone wrong? But He wants them to come back to Him. He wants them to get it right. But at the same time, He's saying, I know how far I'm willing to go to make this right, but I really need y'all to understand that and relate to that. And so, um, read that chapter and tell me if that's what you're feeling, if that's what you're vibing, or if you're getting a whole new different vibe. Like, girl, I don't know what you saw. I saw something totally different than Isaiah. Let me know about that too. But that's what I saw. And it's so funny. It correlates to what I've been feeling all week. I've been wanting to post and tell everyone to pray for our children because there's the enemy's attacking our children, y'all. I mean, I've had so many different things come up this week alone involving children, young adults, and with this being the voting season, and and everything, we're trying to encourage them to vote and encourage them to do this and do that. There's still other stuff that's going on that they're facing, and it's like I know where it's coming from, and I figured it out, or at least I think I figured it out. I had a conversation with one of my friends, and I told her, I said, we're getting back to our traditional faith building and building our strength to the point to where the enemy can't penetrate us like he used to. So now he's moving to the younger generation. And it don't take much on a mind that is currently that's easy to be impressionable to get them to stray. And as parents, that's our weak spot. That's our Achilles heel. That's the one thing that'll make us go all in our flesh. I just had that last week. So he's using our precious children in order to redirect us, to make us lose focus, to make us act out of our walk, out of our practice. And so we have to pray for our children. We have to cover our children. We have to cover them in the protection. When I say our children, I'm not talking about just my kids. I'm worried about everybody's kids across this world. I am so concerned with the young generations. Not saying that they're making bad decisions. I just feel like they're being attacked. They're going through stuff that they shouldn't have to go through as children. They are experiencing things that they shouldn't have to experience as children. They're having hardships in their lives that are for minor decisions. If they even made a decision, they're just walking through the gunfire, and not even knowing it. So we got to pray for them, y'all. We got to pray for them. We got to pray for this world that we're living in today, so that we can be protected. That's the goal. We need to be under the cover of protection. God is moving and He is shifting and He's doing things, and I'm seeing everything that God is doing, and I'm just like mind blown, really mind blown about what God is doing and how He's shifting and lining me up for the overflow. I've been getting nothing but overflow all year. But I'm not taking my eyes off the main goal, and that is to defeat this enemy so God's kingdom can still grow. So I'm not focusing so much on the blessing as much so as the journey. What is this? You gonna bless me with this, but how I'm gonna use this blessing for your kingdom? How I'm gonna keep myself in line and keep focused on what you're doing so that I can continue to help you build of your kingdom, help your children find their faith and believe just like I'm believing, so that we can be strong when the enemy comes to attack, because he's attacking. And so um, I really hope this helps somebody. Again, sorry about the length, but that's what I got from chapter 1. I will continue to keep you updated on progress and prayer. Keep you all in my prayers. I will continue to pray that we all are protected. Our children are protected, that we are continuing to build our faith, and we'll continue to believe in Christ, because that's what it's about. So followers, just continue to pray, keep building your relationship with Christ, keep believing in God, keep trusting, and know that everything is going to be all right as long as He's with you, and He's always with you. The only way He is not is if we turn our backs on Him. So don't turn your backs, don't give up, don't lose doubt, and don't be out here playing. Keep your eyes focused on God. Look for Him every day. Seek Him. Make that your daily ritual, with your daily practice throughout the day, not just once a day, throughout your day. All right. Y'all have a blessed evening.